Welcome, everyone, to talk about pain. And today I have a special treat for you. Integrative hypnotist Stephanie Dalfonzo, who's been doing research for over 20 years and combines the latest neuroscience with practical and simple skills and techniques to help you calm stress and anxiety and learn to sleep well again, is here. So she is also the author of Goodbye Anxiety and Hello Freedom, which is available on Amazon. And Stephanie's first career, oddly enough, was as a celebrity radio DJ, Stevie Knox. And back then she hypnotized her listeners to come back day after day. So for the past 17 years as an integrative hypnotist, she's been using her voice to literally hypnotize her clients into making incredible life changes. And what a life you've had.
I have. I mean, wait a minute. Celebrity radio DJ, integrative hypnotist. What?
Yeah.
It's been a great ride.
Well, thanks so much for being here, because, hypnotism has been something I think that intrigues so many people, and especially me. And I've often wondered, how that could be used in a patient population, to help people with pain and so forth. So we'll get into that in just a second, but I was kind of curious, how do you define hypnotism? How for people out there who aren't clear on exactly what that is, why don't you take a poke at that?
For people who think, oh, you're going to make me bark like a dog or cluck like a chicken? No, not at all. All the stuff that we see on radio and TV, it's all for entertainment purposes. So we're in and out of hypnosis all the time, but we don't realize it. At its absolute basic, it is a focused state of awareness. So if you've ever driven somewhere and you get there and you think, oh, I don't remember the drive. Literally, it's called highway hypnosis. So in the movie theater, when you would be sitting there, you'd be so into the movie and they'd want you to cry and you'd start tearing up, or if they wanted you to jump and you jump in your seat, it's because for that moment in time, you've forgotten that there's, actors and actresses, that you're in a movie theater, you're just focused on what's going on. So we're constantly in and out of hypnosis. It's not this, swinging pocket watch kind of stuff. Again, what they do on the TV and movies is totally for entertainment purposes. But as a hypnotist, I actually owe a debt of gratitude to those stage hypnotists who kept hypnosis alive, because at one point, oh boy, it was really shunned. It was, woo, hypnosis, and no. And so what kept it going was the stage hypnotists. And so they have created a lot of the myths and misconceptions about it, but thankfully, it still kept the door open a little bit. And now, people like you are more open-minded to going, how can I combine this with what I'm already doing for an even better outcome?
Yeah. So can you explain a little bit about what's going on there in the brain that people can slip into this state, highway hypnosis, or in a theater, or, under your care and guidance? What's going on there in the brain?
All right. So is it okay if I just give you a practical experience of it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So as long as your listeners are not driving, if you're not driving, go ahead and close your eyes. And if that's not comfortable, just let them come to a soft gaze. Basically, I just want to help you block out those visual distractions. And we're just going to tap into the power of your imagination. And so I want you to just imagine that you and I are sitting across a table from each other. Not just you, Rick, but each of the listeners. Just imagine that we're sitting across a table. Maybe we're having lunch. Maybe we're having an afternoon adult bev, whatever. We're just hanging out. And for some odd reason, I reach into my purse and I bring out a lemon. Only it's not just any lemon. It's a Costco lemon. So it truly is like the size of a grapefruit. And whether you see it as a picture in your mind's eye or you can imagine the pitted, yellow, dimply skin and the little two pointy sides on it, right? And so now imagine that I've got a cutting board magically appearing on the table in front of me. And I begin rolling the lemon around on the cutting board to loosen the juices. And maybe you get a little hint of that lemony smell. And then imagine that I take a very sharp knife and I slice it right in half. The juices start spraying. You may feel some of it touching your skin and maybe get a little more of a smell of that lemon. And now imagine, Rick, that you pick it up, one of the halves, and you bring it up under your nose, and ooh, now you can really smell that. Yeah, I see that. Well, now, Rick, I want you to imagine, and your listeners, that you open your mouth and you take a big, juicy bite out of it. And I don't have to ask you what happened. I can see it. So go ahead, Rick, and listeners too, open your eyes. And Rick, tell me what happened.
Oh yeah, you start salivating. I mean, it's really an interesting thing because you can smell it, you can see it, but it's all happening in your brain. It's fascinating, and your body's responding to that. And I guess everything that happens to us on a daily basis, I'm guessing, is just really happening in our brain, on some
Yes.
level. And
Yes.
so
And
that's kind of what you're tapping into or drawing upon, it sounds like.
what we're tapping into is the subconscious. That's where our power is, right?
Yeah.
I will do this. I do this with clients. I do it in my presentations, always as the setup, because once you feel that, once you're like, wow, my mouth puckered up, it's like, now you understand when I say your subconscious does not know the difference between real and imagined. So if I just told you that up front, you'd be like, okay, that's nice. What does that really mean? But now you're like, oh, okay. So, oh, you mean I can harness this to help me to do just about anything. You can use it in one of the techniques that I share in my book, and to calm anxiety is to yawn. That's one of the techniques. It's simply to yawn because, again, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So when you yawn, whether it's a involuntary yawn or a fake yawn, it still does the same thing. It triggers the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body, goes from the brain to the belly, encircles all the internal organs, and it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest nervous system. So we can use that once we understand, ooh, I can harness this power, then we can use it in any direction at all. We can use it to help control or manage pain. We can use it to help overcome a fear, to calm you and stress, calm your stress and anxiety. Once you tap into that power, Rick, that's why the first day of my hypnosis training, I swear I thought the skies opened up, the choirs of angels were singing. It was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, because our unconscious or subconscious mind is 90% of our brain. Well, that's only like 10% is what we got left. And that's what most of us function with, right? 10% isn't very much. So when we can start tapping into what's really powerful inside of us, it opens up all possibilities.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I was looking at your website, and I saw the story of how you helped this woman overcome her fear of riding in planes. Is that correct?
That is Sarah,
Yeah.
the 5-foot traveler,
Yeah.
she was 19 years old when she came to me. Her family was going on a trip to Mexico, and she wasn't going. No way, no how. I am not getting on that airplane. And I can still see, I had an office for 10 years. I can still see her and her mom sitting on my couch, and her mom saying, oh, we know exactly when it started. And I smiled politely, and I said, maybe, maybe not. Because my experience is most of the time we think we know where something started, and it's not even close. So no surprise, it wasn't where mom thought, but I was able to help her find where that issue started, heal it, and be free. So she goes on the trip to Mexico. She goes to study abroad the next semester, and she flew all over Europe. And I wake up and look at my Facebook one morning, and I see a picture of her, which is on my website, skydiving, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. But that's pretty impressive, right? Say, all
Yes.
right, here is this incredible picture that shows you what's possible. But then, Rick, it changed her whole life. She has a very successful business as the 5-foot traveler. She's gone to all 7 continents, 150 plus countries. She would have never done that if she hadn't been able to face and overcome her fear. Like, that
So
is why I love to point to her and say, look, this is the face of freedom.
yeah. So is when you as a hypnotist, is it important that you always find the source of the problem that people are trying to overcome?
Pretty much that is only my opinion. There
Uh-huh.
are other people who don't subscribe to that.
Uh-huh.
My experience has been from early on, before I started really realizing, okay, so, here we are, we're recording this at the beginning of summer, and neither one of these thumbs are green, right? So I used to be, thankfully, my husband's taken over the weeding and the gardening and stuff. But I used to be the lazy one who would go out with the shears and I'd snip the weed above the ground. What happened? It grew back, right? Once I figured out, oh, I've got to go in with the little trowel and take out the root, then there's room for me to plant a beautiful flower. So when we take out the fear, whatever the root issue is, and we take it out, sure, I can put it back in the box, but it's never going to go back in the same way.
Hmm.
So for your listeners listening, like, what did she just do? I popped a tissue out of my tissue box. And they've got like little machines that fold it in there a certain way. So I pulled it out, and yeah, I can stuff it back in there, but it never goes back in. So my experience and my belief is that once we get that root cause and we do the healing work around it without creating amnesia, but we do the healing gently, do the healing work around it, then it's gone. It's not like a milk carton that has an expiration date on it.
Yeah. So are you using hypnosis to also get to the root cause of things?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because I call myself an integrative hypnotist
Uh-huh.
because it's hypnosis and a gazillion other healing modalities. I've been
Got it.
researching all of this for over 20 years. So at this point, I kind of have my own little secret sauce. And it's also because the very first technique I learned back in the 1990s was Gary Craig on a corded telephone. The phone was still bolted to the wall with the
Huh.
corded, thing, talking about tapping, emotional freedom techniques.
Yeah.
And he's talking about this crazy tapping technique, right? Which helped me immensely, helped me learn how to sleep again, helped me to calm my stress and anxiety. But over the years, there have been some people who, like, okay, that doesn't work for me. If that's all I knew, then I wouldn't be able to help them. So, um, and a vast majority, I can't say, what the percentage is, but, on the very first day of my hypnosis training, almost 18 years ago, Melissa said, okay, I'll give you a little hint here. Most hypnotists are reading a script. You know how to read. I'm not going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you that the client has the script, and I'm going to teach you to go in and find the answer
Hmm.
within the client. Because if I had a, overcome fear of flying script, maybe it would have helped Sarah, maybe not. It's each situation is individualized to each of us. So we have these experiences up until the age of about 6 or 7. They call it the age of reason. So up until then, every experience is brand new. We have nothing to compare it to, right? So when we experience something, especially when we experience something young as a child, that becomes imprinted and that becomes the truth. So when you have that strong a belief, you know, from my perspective, unless you get in and are able to rewire that belief, then it's still going to be running in the background. And so it's important in my estimation that we get to that root cause. And it doesn't mean you have to be re-traumatized. I am so adamant about that we don't have to re-traumatize ourselves to get free. But there's a study called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or ACEs for short. And it was done a long time ago. It was done back in the late 1990s. And it just sat there for, unfortunately, for years. 17,000 people. So it's a big, robust study done by the Centers for Disease Control and Kaiser Permanente, which is a big healthcare company.
Yeah.
Simple questions, 10 little questions on a quiz. Did you experience this before the age of 18? Asking questions about abuse, physical, emotional, sexual. It's asking about addiction in the family. If you lost a parent to divorce or death or incarceration, asking all these different questions. And you don't want to score high on this. Overachiever that I am, I scored high on the darn thing. What is incredible for this, because when I started all this research, there wasn't research to look at, right? Now I can point to this and say, oh, by the way, now I know, here's proof that what happens to us in childhood doesn't stay in childhood. It follows us through. You score 4 or more on this ACEs quiz, it is a direct correlation to a higher chance that you're going to be obese, have diabetes, have heart issues, have suicide attempts, addictions. Like, it's a direct correlation. Yeah. What excites me about that is, that sounds kind of like, oh, all right, Steph, thanks for bumming us out. But what excites me is that doesn't mean that has to happen. It means, oh, you take this quiz and, you can Google it and Google ACEs, ACES quiz. And usually NPR is the first one that pops up. Take the quiz. If you've got 4 or more, find help. You can totally change the trajectory.
Yeah, that, it's interesting the way you put that. It's very similar when I'm treating patients, with chronic pain. I always start off with their complete injury history, and some people are happy to go back to their childhood and talk about, oh, and then I had multiple sprains, or I had this fracture here. But that couldn't, oftentimes they'll say, but that couldn't have anything to do with it, right?
Right.
But so often it is the case that these issues that they're dealing with now started back in there, and they were either ignored or incompletely rehabbed or what have you. So I totally get that. That's exactly what I see from a physical standpoint. It only makes sense that would happen mentally as well.
Well, it's emotionally and physically, and they are not always separate. You see this time and time again, where they are part and parcel, that you can't separate it out. And it is so funny because, I personally, I'm telling you, if I scored that high on that darn ACEs quiz, you can tell I didn't have a, what's a Ward and June Cleaver childhood, right? Oh, that was my childhood. Oh, guess what? It followed me through, but I've done the healing work for it. Yeah. So, I don't want your listeners to think, okay, now I've got to go drag through everything that happened. You don't, right? If you think about it, and this is a gift that I have, I really do have this incredible gift of being very easily able to find where that root cause is. Once you find that root cause and heal that, the rest takes care of itself. You don't have to sit and go, all right, when I was 5, this happened. And when I was 6, who would want to go through that?
Yeah. It often, and this is, again, you're echoing my experience that, once you stumble on the reason that person is having their pain, it's not that, even though it happened 40 years ago, it doesn't mean it's going to take 40 years to solve. You can solve it in a day. It's just, it can be that simple. So I absolutely agree.
So the oldest person I've worked with so far, are we back now?
Yeah, I haven't lost you.
Okay, I lost you. So just let me know if you can hear me. Yeah. So the oldest person I've worked with so far was 82 years old. Like, first of all, I look to her and I think, oh my gosh, I'm so proud of her that she was willing at 82 to say, I'm not willing to live like this anymore.
Yeah.
So she had irritable bowel syndrome. And she had seen in the newspaper there was a health fair coming up at the Y, and they had said, oh, and Stephanie Dalfonzo, hypnotist, will be there. And she says hypnosis is great for IBS. So she literally came to the Y to meet me and say, can you help me? So there was a lot of pain involved in IBS.
Oh, yeah. Terrible.
So we did the healing work. It went back to, again, she's 82 years old. Of course, it went back to when she was like 3, 4, 5 years old. She had a very traumatic childhood. We did the healing work. She was able to live her life free. I get an email from her after we were done working together. She was a very devout Catholic, and she would go to morning mass every day, and she would do some kind of reading. And she messed up one day. And she said, I made a mistake, and I realized for the first time in my life, I was okay. It didn't matter. I just kept on. I couldn't believe how free it felt. So I love to share that because, some of us, oh, okay, well, I'm too old. I have on my door, I had this in my waiting room when I had an actual in-person office, and I still keep it on my office door here, is it's never too late to be with life.
Yeah. I agree. So when you say, Stephanie, that you do the healing work, is that this combination of maybe a psychotherapy as well as the hypnotism, or what's going on there?
No. I am definitely not a mental health professional. I'm very clear about that. It's hypnosis. It's energy work. It's some coaching. It really is like a whole bunch of different things. I mean, I'll bring in colors. Sometimes I'll bring in essential oils. Even then, all right, wait, how do you do that when you're not in person? It is amazing that
just like that lemon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I can use the essential oils, and I can be like, oh, okay, lemon is the oil of focus. So let's get you focused. And I'll be sniffing it surrogately for the client. And it's like, whoop, oh, okay, now I'm focused.
Yeah.
It's quite incredible.
So that's an example of using hypnotism to take them through whatever root cause that you found. It's one example. Can you give another one or two, just to, because I think there's this, I just think that a lot of people don't understand hypnotism, including myself. And it would be really nice to see like the span of types of things you can do with it. Because it sounds like if it's dealing with the subconscious, it's got to be able to do so much. And I'd love to hear more.
When you're talking about tapping into the 90% versus the 10% that we operate from, it is incredibly fascinating. And I've had people come with just about anything possible. I mean, I've had people come where, I hid my mother's wedding ring in my house and I can't find it. Oh. Well, it's lodged back there. Everything we've ever experienced is coded in our subconscious or unconscious mind. It's just a question of finding the access point. It's like, they've created these incredible supercomputers, and as of yet, I think they might be very close, but as of yet, they haven't totally outdone our brains yet. So, okay, I want to be able to find this. And sometimes we can, and sometimes we can't. I can't guarantee that, we can always do that, like I can't guarantee, anything. But, in the case of fears, I love fears because you either have it or you don't. Right? Like that to me is just so exciting. And, again, going back to, well, we know exactly where it started. You would think that if somebody came with a fear of dogs, it was because they had some bad experience with a dog, right? Nope. I had a 14-year-old cheerleader who was sent to me by her pediatrician. I have a local pediatrician who has been sending me her clients, her patients for over 10 years for her fear of dogs. Well, I said, okay, I was already working virtually then. I said to the mom, we're going to work over the computer. And boy, the kids love it. This was pre-pandemic. And so people weren't doing this virtual thing yet. But when I know she's got it, I want you to bring her to my house for her last session, because I want her to be introduced to my dog as the first dog that she's introduced to. So, okay, we have 3 sessions. After the first session, we're only working on her fear of dogs. After the first session, oh my gosh, I was able to do a backflip in front of my cheerleading coach that I've never been able to do before. I'm not working on her cheerleading, right? After the second session, oh my gosh, brand new freshman, and she got a spot on the varsity cheerleading squad. Like, that doesn't happen, right? Again, we're only working on the fear of dogs. Well, it turns out the root cause had nothing to do with the dog. The root cause was she was 4 or 5 years old for her first dance recital, and she was feeling the pressure and feeling the anxiety of it. So, we did the healing work around it. Then she came to my house. The mother dropped her off, came back crying because here's her daughter sitting on my couch with my dog next to her. So she goes to the party that she wanted to go to. The mom says, there's not one, there's not two, there's 3 dogs walking around this party. And the girl's like, then the mother emails me a couple weeks later and she goes, the most amazing thing happened. So-and-so stopped throwing up on competition days. What? Nobody had ever told me the girl was throwing up because of this performance anxiety.
Yeah.
And yet there it was. So it's, again, when I say you don't know where it starts, you never know where it starts.
That's fascinating that her fear, her performance anxiety, can you trace a path of how that fear of performance went into a fear of dogs? Yeah.
I have no idea.
Interesting.
And it's because I don't mean to be flip about this, but I don't really care how it morphed into it. All I care about is, did I get the job done?
Yeah.
Was I able to get the girl to be free?
Yeah.
But it's so fascinating to me that,
it is.
In our 10%, our logical conscious mind, of course we would think, well, it's got to have something to do with the dog. And then, nope, nothing to do with the dog.
Yeah.
Right.
Fascinating.
And so, things that sometimes, as we talked about the other day, that Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. He says that, 1 in 5 Americans have been molested as children. 1 in 4 grew up with alcoholics. That's a lot of wounded people walking around. And check, I check off both those boxes. So when we're able to gently find where that root cause is, and I never, if you come into me and say, I was molested when I was 5 years old, the last thing I'm going to do is say, okay, now let's go back to that time when you were 5 and you were molested, because I now know that our unconscious, subconscious mind protects us. And so sometimes we have to peel the layers of the onion to get to what needs to be healed. And so I had a woman who was in her 50s, and she had said, I had a car accident, and now I'm experiencing PTSD from a car accident I had when I was 17. It was a really bad accident. I was in the hospital, and now everything's coming back. And I said, maybe not. And it had nothing to do with the 17-year-old car accident. She went back to when she was 5 years old, and her mother was jumping out the window because she was trying to kill herself.
Wow.
Like, what?
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with the car accident, but now the woman's free and she's driving and not plagued by that anymore. So again, I don't ever assume like, oh, I know where we're going, because I've had too many experiences where it's like, oh, that's not really where I would have thought, but okay. It's trusting that our higher mind knows exactly. We have the wisdom, just like the wisdom of, we cut our finger. We don't have to sit and go, ooh, heal, 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 heal. Our body knows how to heal.
It's an amazing healing machine. Oh yeah.
With the work that you do, you have to have seen that there's been physical healings where you're like, no, there's no way that happened. And yet it did.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're using hypnotism to help get at the root cause and then help, because really what you're doing is tapping into that subconscious, right?
Yes,
And so,
yes.
you're using hypnotism or tapping into the subconscious to get to the root cause, and then also help them. How do you bring that to the consciousness, or how do you use hypnotism once you've found that root cause? Are there certain techniques that you're using to help them understand and deal with that without harming themselves,
Well,
or
so that's
how does
where
that work?
unfortunately, that's where it gets tricky with
Uh-huh.
me, Rick. And I do say unfortunately, because when I'm doing my work, I'm like so present that I'm not really conscious necessarily of, what's going on. It's, to go back to my original, radio DJ um, persona, in the old days, we didn't just push a button and it magically changed the channel. We had to tune the dial,
Oh
right? So
yeah.
we'd
Right.
and then
Yeah.
and then I'd get onto the Rick channel and it was clear as a bell. So that's what happens when I'm with my clients.
Mm.
It's like everything else just goes away and I'm just here in the moment.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really 100% sure I could say, okay, now that we found the root cause, we did this and this, because each person's totally different, even each
Yeah.
client from session to session. What is incredibly important to me, like it is paramount, is that it's not just about doing the healing work and then, okay, great, you're on your way. It's about doing the healing work and then empowering you to be prepared for the next time life throws you a curveball.
Hmm.
And hello, raise your hand if you've had a few curveballs thrown after these past couple of years, right? Life has been a constant curveball. So it's not just for me, it's not just about doing the healing work. It's about doing the healing work and then giving you opportunities, teaching you some of the techniques from my book.
Yeah.
And there's 35 in the book, not because I want you to learn 35. It's because, hey, some people don't like this, some people don't like that. Let's find two or three that really work for you and do them again and again on a regular basis, so that did you play sports, or do you play
Yeah.
sports, Rick?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So you know that you have to pivot. Like if you're playing, any kind of a ball game, right? You have to pivot where the ball is going to be going instead of just standing there like, all right, the ball's got to come to me, right? You have to pivot to where it's going. And so you have to be able to pivot emotionally when life is throwing you curveballs. But, just doing it one time, like, oh, okay. I learned that if I yawn, it calms me down. Well, I'll just wait until, no, by then you don't have that muscle memory built up, right?
Yeah.
So you need to build up that muscle memory, calming the stress, calming the anxiety again and again and again, so that when life comes and throws you a curveball, you can, do you remember weebles wobble, but they don't fall down, right? So you can wobble a little bit without being taken all the way back down.
Yeah. Wow, there's so many parallels to physical therapy.
Yes,
Because it's
yes.
it's not just about eliminating that pain. You've got to teach them how to use their body differently, and fix the habits that are causing them to stress their body in a way that creates the pain. And
Oh,
so,
really? You mean it's more than just you waving a magic wand and
well,
saying, "Get on
believe it
this
or
machine
not,
and you're healed"?
well, I mean, I use the magic wand too, but
Oh, okay.
but I mean, there's so many parallels, because you're so right. I mean, the connection between the mind and the body is so, interwoven. There, you have to deal with the belief systems when you're dealing with the physical, and
Yes.
likely vice versa. There
Yeah.
are,
Yeah. There is no one size fits all approach.
yeah.
And there is no one way to get from point A to point B. As I was coming home from the beach yesterday afternoon, the highway was completely shut down. Now I had a choice. I could sit in this traffic that it wasn't moving. I'm not talking it was going 5 miles an hour. It was shut down. So I had a choice. I could sit there and go, of course, it happened right before my exit, and I could get all twisted about it. Or I could go, all right, you know what? That part's open. Let me go over there and find my way home. So Two, when you have physical injuries, right? And you go and you get relief, and then, oh, okay, great, I'm fine now. And then all of a sudden you're not again. Did you do any follow-up work? Did you do any of the stuff that Rick asked you to continue doing? No? Oh, well, what if you did? Right?
Yeah, so let's go down that road a little bit. How do you use hypnosis to help with things like pain management, or things like that?
So first of all, because of how I practice, I always, if I'm going to work with somebody for pain management, I do it with a referral from their doctor, or somebody like you. I do it with a referral, because it's never, hey, I can help you, and forget about, you've got to be working on the physical as well as the emotional. That has to go part and parcel. So with pain management, again, I've seen amazing things happen, absolutely amazing, where, somebody can have phantom limb pain, right? And, say they've lost their arm, and yet they still have pain in their left arm. Like, how is that possible? Cellular memory is still there. So and I never say I treat, diagnose, cure anything. I will never. If somebody says, I've got this chronic pain, can you make it go away? No, I can help you lessen it. So again, it's tapping into the power of your mind. In my hypnosis training, I saw the freakiest video. It was all grainy, black and white, but of a woman, I think she was in the UK, having a cesarean section, only using hypnosis. Wait. They were cutting into her to bring the baby out, and all she was using was hypnosis. There is a book called Prepare for Surgery, Heal Faster, which is based on the premise of hypnosis. I don't think she called it hypnosis, but it was. And then there's a great app called Comfort Talk. And I love being able to refer people to this, because my son, who when he was in high school called me the woo-woo crackpot, because he thought, my mom's a hypnotist, oh my gosh, right? Well, when he needed to get his wisdom teeth out, he used this app, and he had much less pain pills or whatever it was. So this, I forget, she's an anesthesiologist, I think. She's an MD at a hospital in Boston, and she says this is hypnosis for pain management, right? So again, I'm so happy, because now I can point to, here's an MD saying hypnosis works. But again, you have to be open to it, right? People will ask, well, what do you do about the skeptics? Lesson release, right? Because I don't need to try and win somebody over. If they're not open to it, it's not going to work. But and
by the way, that's the same for physical therapy too. We have so many skeptics coming into our clinic who've been around the block. Oh, sure, because they've been to 8 other practitioners, right? Oh, well, I've already been to 4 other physical therapists, so I've tried physical. Well, this is a little different. Let's just see what we can find here. And, if we don't help you, it'll just give me 2 sessions. And I think, we'll be able to know whether we're going to help you. But that skepticism is a real big hurdle to get over as a practitioner,
Wow. That's so interesting, because I really didn't realize that you ran into that.
Oh gosh.
To the extent that I do.
All the time with chronic pain. I mean, so many people are just going around the medical block trying to find someone. And the less success that they have, of course, the more doubtful they become that anyone can help them.
And for me, Rick, it's, I look at that, and I've had the experience where, someone will come with pain, chronic pain, they come with the referral, and they've got such deep limiting beliefs that there's nothing I can do, right? I'm really good at what I do, but I'm only part of the equation, right? I need you to show up with an open mind to say,
Yeah.
okay, nothing else has worked. I am desperate.
Yeah.
Why not open up to this? And I'm sure you've seen where, not everybody who's a skeptic comes in and has this epiphany and wonderful healing opportunity. But you've had times when somebody's come in, they're total skeptic, and then they walk out going, oh my gosh, that Rick is amazing, huh?
Nine times out of 10, they'll walk out and realize that they're, trying something different. And so this is a worthwhile thing. But that initial skepticism, even just to get them to walk in the door, so many doctors have called us and said, why hasn't patient X come in? I said, they never even came in for an initial eval, because they just never believed that anyone could help them. So, it's like we can't get them in the door.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I've often said, a lot of times people will say, you're my choice of last resort. And I don't take that offensively. I know, you've tried. Okay. You've never tried anything like this, have you?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's hypnosis. You're going to make me bark like a dog, cluck like a chicken. Well, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
What if I were able, and I never say, what if I were able to help you get over your pain? No. What if you've been struggling with chronic pain and you were able to reduce it even by 30%, would that increase your enjoyment of life? Well, yeah, of course it would. Okay, let's go for that. When they experience a 50% or a 60%, like, oh my gosh, that's even more wonderful. Yeah. So it's also, for me, going in, not over promising it. I want to under promise and over deliver.
Yeah. So, a big part of having chronic pain is, having chronic pain at night, and it really interrupts people's sleep cycles. So I imagine you deal a lot with sleep, helping people sleep, because to me, I mean, that's a big part of the body healing. If I can get them to sleep better, suddenly the whole world opens up for them,
Yeah. And sleep is the root cause for me of why I do what I do. Back in the 90s, when I was doing my last radio show, I was doing the morning show, and my kids were little. My son was still in diapers, and I developed insomnia. And anybody who just heard that word that's ever experienced, a shiver went through them, because it's debilitating, absolutely debilitating. So I did what most people do. I went to the doctor, got a prescription. It worked, and then it didn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be able to sleep. Let me find some ways that'll help me. And so sleep is not, there's medications and whatever. And if that works, that's great. But people who come to me have tried everything but the kitchen sink. And okay, how do I learn how to sleep well again? And it's actually pretty simple, because if you think about it, at some point in our lives, we all knew how to sleep. We have that innate wisdom within us. It's covered up with stuff. And so, okay, how do we get to uncover that and get to, oh, that's right. Well, I'm living proof. I can tell you that I sleep well most nights. And going back to what we were saying earlier about being prepared for what might happen, if I wake up, I know how to get back to sleep. And that's what I share with my clients. I mean, even something, as some people might just be like, dismiss it, and that, okay, that, if that doesn't work for you, it doesn't. But I love my weighted blanket. I had already learned, all these different ways to help me sleep. And then my daughter asked for a weighted blanket a couple of years ago. And I was like, well, all right, whatever, if that works for you. And then one time when I was having a rough night's sleep, I took a couple of pillows and bed pillows and put them on top of my body, which helped me to stop tossing and turning. That would be like my first thing to anybody who's experienced sleep issues right now, is when you start tossing and turning in the middle of the night, stop. Because as you are physically moving back and forth, you are exacerbating your emotions to be agitated like that as well. So I put these pillows on me, and it kept me still, and I was able to do some of my breath techniques and some of the stuff, techniques I do to go back to sleep. And I was like, huh, there might be something to this
Yeah.
weighted blanket. And sure enough, it is. And if you think about it, when we're first born, we're swaddled, we're wrapped into this nice, tight little cocoon. So the weighted blanket is mimicking that. It's mimicking back to our childhood when we knew how to sleep. We didn't always want to. And if I think you have kids, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One of my kids was so colicky and was not the
Right.
ideal perfect sleeper. But if you
Right.
think about it, we all had that innate wisdom of we know how to sleep. So now, especially when you're dealing with pain issues, and you wake up and I slept on my shoulder wrong the other night. So guess what? The next night I was having a hard time sleeping because I was, worrying about my shoulder and really focusing on my shoulder. So it's about what we focus on grows, right? So if we are, if people have restless leg syndrome, or like I had, my shoulder bothering me the other night, the more I focus on, oh, my shoulder's really bothering me. Well, I'm not focusing on, oh, how can I calm myself down? How can I calm that sensation down? How can I take that sensation of my shoulder that I'd say it was like a 7 or 8 the other night? All right, I can do all my techniques that I want, but the best thing I can do is, first of all, how do I take that from a 7 or 8 down to maybe a 3 and 4? Oh, at a 3 or 4, I can go back to sleep again.
So do you find, is an inability to sleep, is that also due often to a root cause that needs to be discovered?
Not always.
Uh-huh.
Not always. Sometimes yes, but not always. Sleep issues, oh, for Pete's sake, if we just look at what's been happening in the past 2+ years. I forget what the stats are for sleep medications, but in the first month of the pandemic, from mid-February to mid-March of 2020, prescriptions for sleep medications went up, and prescriptions for anti-anxiety medications rose over 34% in 1 month. Now, I have nothing to say about medications, take them, don't take them. That's outside my scope of practice. But I share that statistic because it really tells you the state of people's emotions, right? That many people were like freaking out and, oh my gosh, I need some help. So a lot of the sleep issues that people have had over the past couple of years is not due to a root cause. It's due to the chaos of the world that we're living in.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're talking about is, if you are waking up frequently, to keep yourself calm and try to find ways to calm down. Don't move around a lot in bed or whatever, to try and get back into that relaxed state. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
That's part of it. And one of the first things is, the last thing you want to do is pick up your phone. And that's the first thing that most people do. If I wanted to, I could be in the middle of the night on social media picking up clients all day long, because they wake up in the middle of the night and they go to their devices and they, hey, who else is up? And it's the kiss of not being able to sleep. It's like, you can guarantee it's not just the blue light, but it's also now you're exciting your nervous system and blah, blah, blah. Even reading a book on a Nook or a Kindle or something, again, you're getting that light. So it's exciting you. So, I'm like, okay, I think of this woman I worked with probably close to 10 years ago. And she had come to one of my in-person sleep workshops. And I said, all right, what do you do when you wake up in the middle of the night? And she said, oh, I grabbed my phone. And I said, well, if you want to learn how to sleep well again, that's the last thing you should be doing. And she was like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. But I spoke to her recently, and she said she doesn't anymore, because she finally agreed with Arianna Huffington, who she was the founder of the Huffington Post. She's real big on sleep. Like that is like a major initiative for her. And she even sells this thing that you can put on your wall outside your bedroom door where you can put your devices and it charges them. She's like, don't even let them into your bedroom.
Huh.
Now, some people use them for their alarms. Some people, like me, I have on a very, very low volume, I have a sleep track that plays through the night. But if I wake up in the middle of the night, I do not pick up my phone because I know it's getting that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've learned at least that much, not to turn on my phone when I wake up. So,
Yeah, but they're so addictive.
oh yeah, but well, I hate being on my phone during the day too, so it's not that hard for me not to pick it up. My phone is more an annoyance than anything. But
You are among a very small
oh,
percentage, my
I
friend.
know, yeah, I know. Uh, I wanted to talk to you. So I've had quite a few patients in the clinic who, it turns out that an anxiety issue or emotional issue was at the root cause of a lot of their pain. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit more about your experience with chronic pain as it relates to anxiety or emotional issues. Do you have any uh, when people come to you, are they coming to you because they have anxiety? Are they coming to you because they have pain? Uh, and they didn't recognize that they have anxiety? I mean, talk to me a little bit about how you're working with these types of people.
Great question. Great question, Rick. Because some are coming just for chronic pain. Oh, and then they discover there's anxiety there. Some are coming with chronic pain and they know they have anxiety, but they don't know what to do about it. And then some people are coming just with anxiety, and they may not even know that there's chronic pain going on. I had a woman who came to me after she had spent a year of having panic attacks, of not being able to sleep, of these quote unquote unexplained physical issues. She had them, she had issues with her neck, she had issues with her hips, she had all these physical, and nobody could find out what was going on, with the physical, right? They could not find out. So, we started working together, and she didn't see that the anxiety and panic attacks may have something to do with the chronic pain. So once we started doing the work together, it wasn't just the healing work. It's okay, now here are practices that you need to do daily to bring your stress levels down. Because when the stress levels are down, chances are the pain's going to be down as well, right? Because they kind of go hand in hand. The more I know that when I'm in physical distress, I'm more tense, right? I get more
Mm-hmm.
tense and the physical pain gets more intense, right? So it's part and parcel. And the chronic pain, it can be debilitating. I thankfully have never experienced that and hope and pray that I never do. But the clients that I've seen that come in that do have chronic pain, I really feel for them because it's not, a lot of people will just say, oh, it's all in your head, but it's not, right? It
No.
really is. You've got to address the whole person, right? You
Yeah.
cannot, or I cannot, only look at the emotional component and say, oh, that's all you need, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would be irresponsible. But when we can look at a person as a whole, right, where it's so funny because in the medical community, there's this specialist that'll look at this part of you, but they don't
Yes.
look at the rest of you, and this
Right.
will look at this, and they miss seeing what's really going on because it's like the story of the three blind men and the elephant,
Yes.
right? And they're
Yes.
all experiencing something different because they're all experiencing, one's experiencing the trunk, one's experiencing the tail, one's experiencing the belly, and it's all part of the same
Yes.
thing.
Yeah. I tell that story actually in my ebook.
Oh, okay.
that all of these specialists they're saying an elephant is all these different things when really no one has this big picture of what's going on. And
Right.
kind of what you were talking about is I describe that as component thinking. our medical approach is becoming so narrow and specific on smaller and smaller things that we have specialists that are great at components of the body, but there's few that understand how to think of it as a system. And
Yes.
so that's early in my career, I was trained in component thinking, but I saw very quickly that that was not solving the difficult pain cases. And so
Yeah.
that's when I had to start rethinking and look at the body as a series of systems and look at the body as a system to understand why people were having, difficult pain. And
Yeah.
so that, I believe, I agree with you. That is the key, is to have someone who can back up and put it all together for you is necessary. Yeah.
Well, when I say holistic, I'm not just talking HOL,
Right.
holistic. I'm
Yeah.
talking the WHO, as in whole
Yes.
person,
Me.
holistic approach.
I absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree.
So
Uh,
for anybody who's listening, who is experiencing chronic pain, from my perspective, I would say just go to my website, download my free guide that has some of the techniques from my book, and start playing with them, start actioning them. I am not saying, oh, do these techniques and your pain's going to go away. I'm not saying that by any stretch, but if simply by doing a couple of techniques on a regular basis, and it has to be on a regular basis. It's like, you've got these machines behind you. You don't have somebody go get on, is that a recumbent bike that I see behind you?
yes.
Okay. So you don't have somebody get on the bike and 1, 2, and then they're off and whoo, everything's fine, right?
Right.
They have to do it. They have to do the reps. They have to do the repetition. So I would say, go download my free guide and action them, practice them on a regular basis, and then start to notice, really like write down, keep a journal of your pain levels and see, okay, I notice that, because it's about responding to life instead of reacting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I noticed, a lot of times, we have pain issues and there might be a relationship issue at home. And so the more that you get pissed off and you're arguing with your significant other, and no, the pain's worse, that's a clue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So, okay, he did this, and I did this instead and took care of myself, and I didn't have a flare up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm not saying there's the magic wand, but it's a start. It's a place to look at, okay, as I'm doing this physical exercise and the physical healing, if I can start bringing my stress, there's all kinds of studies. You can, see study after study if you go on Google looking for stress, physical pain.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. There's thousands and thousands of sites that'll come up.
Yeah. I talk about a mechanism that I think is happening, that it's the physical mechanism that's happening in the body that stress uses to create pain. So it's a theory of mine, but it seems to make sense. And but I was just kind of I'm glad you mentioned your website, because I was going to ask you, what are some tips that people can use right now who have chronic pain? And I
Okay.
will put your website in the notes of this podcast. So
Awesome.
folks just look below or above and find Stephanie's link to her website there.
Right, because
But
how else are you going to figure out how to spell my name?
yeah, exactly. So
All right.
leave
So
us with a tip, or a
so
way to help them.
so real quick, bring your hand to your heart and bring your awareness to your heart. You can do this eyes open or eyes closed, and just resting your awareness on your heart. Imagine, remember the lemon exercise. We're going back into your imagination. Imagine that you could breathe in and out of your heart. Just breathing in and breathing out of your heart. And we know that physically we're not moving air in and out of our heart, but just resting our awareness there. breathing in, breathing out of our heart. And some of my clients like to add in imagining a color, whatever soothing color might work for you. Imagine breathing that soothing color in and out. Or imagine breathing that cooling, soothing color in and exhaling another color that represents your pain, just letting that go. And a lot of people find this very grounding and very calming, and there's actual research to back it up. I'm so into saying, because it's not just airy-fairy. The Heart Math Institute has been studying this for 10, 20 years, maybe more, and they have found that there's actually more electromagnetic currents in our heart than in our brain. So when we do our heart breathing, we're bringing our heart and our brain into coherence, and it's calming and balancing all the systems in our body.
Lovely. Lovely.
Didn't that feel good?
Oh, yeah. It was lovely. Very calming.
Yeah. And how simple is that?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You can do that while you're standing in line at the grocery store. You don't have to put your hand on your heart if you don't want people to be seeing you do that. You can stand there. You're standing there waiting in line. Why not do something good for yourself and just imagine that you're breathing in and out of your heart? One more layer, because I love to layer things on, is as you're imagining doing that heart breathing, you could also add in the color. You could add in, I'm breathing in. I'm breathing out. And obviously, if you're out in public, you're saying that inside your own head. You're not saying it out loud. But, I love to add in these layers because the colors, you may be able to guess, Rick, what's my favorite color as I am bathed in blue here.
Yeah.
And it's because blue is the most calming color there is, right? So as we add in, all right, we're focusing on the heart breathing, that's calming us. Then we add in a color. I never give my clients a color. I let them come up with it, their higher self come up with it.
But it better
They're
be
always
blue.
Surprised. Well, no.
Oh, we're done.
Well, so what if I said black? Like, oh, you'd immediately go like, oh, wait, what? And I always know when I'm doing a group and I say, okay, and just notice what color. And I can always pick out who got black because their face scrunches up like, oh no, I got black. And black is actually energetically the color of patience and protection. Okay, I want patience and protection. Sign me up.
I'll take
right? So as you layer in that energy too, and then layer in the auditory, because again, we all have different ways of learning. So now you've got, the color, the sight, you've got the kinesthetic of the actual breathing, you've got the auditory of I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. You're stacking all these things. Of course, you're going to feel better.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah. Stephanie, thank you so much.
Thank you. I am so glad to connect with you.
This has been such a topic of interest of mine for so long, and you've explained it so beautifully. And I think really demystified it. I mean, it really is, it's much more accessible than I ever imagined it could be. So thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you. I think that you and I are both sides of a different coin, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Thank you so much. What a fabulous conversation and some incredible questions. Thank you.
It was lovely. And for everyone listening and watching, just look below or above this podcast for Stephanie's website link and check out the exercises that she's recommending there and also her book. So thank you, Stephanie, and have a great day.